Okay, we are opening up the Standing Financial and Audit Committee meeting at 6:05. So I'm going to do roll call. Mayor Lara?
Here.
Oh, my. Mayor Pro Tem White?
Here.
Wait a minute. Carol? I can't see treasurer.
Here.
Diana Harris? Here. Elaine Morgan?
Here.
Jennifer Burnett?
Here.
Ray Santos?
Here.
John Hollywell? And Mr. Benecke?
Here.
I still have you as a member. We need to change that. No, he's right.
No, it's
It's right. It's right. It's
Yes,
right.
sir.
I changed.
Sheesh. Any action on request for excused absences? I think so. So now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next, approval adjustments to the agenda. I would say no. Any conflict of interest disclosure? Any announcements, recognitions, proclamations, or correspondence? That's a no again. Okay, so now we'll go to the public comment period. Any one person may address the committee on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided at the back table and give it to the recording secretary. There is a 3-minute limit on public comments. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person. State law prohibits the committee from discussing or taking actions brought up by your comments. So we're opening that up at, say, 6:08. And do we have any public comments?
No, we do not.
Okay, so we're going to close it. We'll call it 6:08.
Okay.
Okay, so next is the adoption of the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Second? All right, so we have it.
Everyone else in favor?
I will be abstaining. I was not here.
Okay.
When were you in your early minutes paper?
I think Mike and I were both out.
Yeah,
Is it
yes.
showing that Mayor Pro Tem White was here?
Oops.
This is for the 14th of November?
Right.
We could still approve as amended.
Yes.
Is that okay with everyone, except for we have one abstain?
And I need to abstain.
Okay.
Because we just had that adjustment, that one? Okay.
Attendance. Okay.
We're good? Okay, let's move on. Draft transit audit physical for 14-15.
Does everyone have their copy of the transit audit report? That is not what was left for you tonight. This would be what was handed out at the last meeting. Yes?
So is it this right here? No,
No,
I don't have one.
I think,
More pages than the last one. There's a lot of pages in it. I saw it wrong.
It has, this is the one that's actually for, it's the same report, but it's for tomorrow night. I don't have another one. I don't have mine. Okay, sorry. So it's got the staff report, the front 2 pages have been added to the one that you got at the last meeting, but that's all that's different. It's just those first 2 pages. So what I handed out at the last meeting for us to discuss was the draft of the audited financial statements for the Transit Authority. The Transit Authority has to report to RCTC separately, only its operations, in order to continue receiving their funding from RCTC. So this audit report is only that piece of the city. It's just the transit authority. The transit authority operates like a regular business, like a for-profit business, which makes it a little different from city accounting. But the financial presentation is essentially the same. One of the things that I had prepared, which is on top of the financial statements, is a combining financial statement document. It is operations, then GASB 68, and then combined. Combined is what the audit report will reflect. The reason I broke out the two columns is because there's a difference between the operations and the new requirements of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board related to pension accounting. That's GASB 68. So I made that its own column so that you could see the result of operations separately from those change in standards that now have an effect on the financial statements. They skew the numbers enough that I thought it was important that we separate them so that you have something to look at that's a little different. GASB 68, and it's in the footnotes of the audit as well, was effective with June 30th, 2015, which is the year we're looking at. So it was new for every governmental group, entity type with June 30, 2015. So the results of this GASB 68 conversion are typical for a lot of different agencies. The GASB 68 essentially says what is the pension liability at the retirement point if everyone were to retire right now. Let's look at the analytics, how the survivorship works, how much would we have to have reserved right now for that retirement cost. And so that's where these numbers come from. When we have our payroll each biweekly, every 2 weeks, we have an amount that the employee pays and then the city does a match. Those are current, those get paid as we go. So those are not considered for this accrual. This accrual is only for the actuaries who crunch numbers, who say, well, on top of that, you also need this much money in order to meet the requirements of your pension payout for all of the individuals that are in the group now. So this number is fluid. It changes all the time. And it's not that it's not a real number. It is a number, but it's not that we're short on funding. We haven't short funded based on actual to date. We just don't have a buildup of reserves for the future needs of the plan. And that's the same for every government agency.
So is it considered an unfunded liability?
Yes. There are lots of different types of pensions, and some create larger unfunded deficit positions than others. So every entity has them, it seems like. Some are just humongous and some aren't as bad, but they're still very tough to swallow.
Could you, are you done with your overview? Or?
For that, yes.
I just have a question regarding your initial statement about the transit system being standalone, like a separate business, you said, basically?
Yes.
What kind of liabilities, if any, does the city potentially have if something, let's say, went awry within this system, this fund? I mean, obviously, without this, would this exist if the city didn't exist, or is it tantamount attached to this? I don't understand
It is,
the relationship.
right.
I don't understand what kind of liability the city would have with that relationship.
Right. It is a part of the city. When we look at the citywide audit, that will also include this piece. But when you have what they call an enterprise fund, which is a part of a government unit which works more like a for-profit business, it needs to be able to have its own set of financials that will segregate it from the city in total. So anything that happens, though, is under the city umbrella. So it's all together.
A good example would be on this unfunded retirement liability. If there was a need for money, the city would have to come up with some funds to supplement it. If for some reason, right now there isn't, but I
Right.
mean, down the road, whatever, something happens.
Right, and that would probably be in conjunction with RCTC, who is the main funder of this particular program. So it would be some kind of combined effort if there was a catastrophic problem or something like that.
And a couple of questions. GASB 68 is a state accounting
No, that is United States, that's government,
And,
all government.
I didn't see anywhere in this document, who did the audit?
The audit is by Van Lant and
Lant.
Frank,
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
They did
Yes,
the transit
they
audit.
did. The audit report isn't signed because it's still draft, so we have to still accept it before we get the letter with their name and their letterhead and their signatures.
Okay, and the unfunded pension liability is just for employees within the transit system?
That is correct. We did, because of the way that CalPERS manages the individual program, we're a city in total, so we had to do some allocations based on who's where in what departments. But essentially, this is the estimated liability that would be for transit only.
Thank you.
Does a part of that unfunded liability include medical insurance?
No, the city does not have that program. The city does not continue to make medical insurance or dental insurance premiums after date of termination or retirement. That is not part of the plan here.
So,
Assumption is that people are going to retire at 65?
I'm not 100% sure what the actuaries base it on. It might be some kind of blended age rate, or maybe it's from other historical data that they use. Because we participate in CalPERS, part of it is the CalPERS actuarial calculations.
so in terms of payroll for transit, that is reimbursed with funds, correct? Or are we bearing all of the costs of payroll too?
No, the transit system is jointly funded between the city and RCTC. RCTC does the majority of that. The city's portion is related to the fare box, and there are calculations we go through based on how much the bus routes have brought in, how much was the cost of the department, and as long as it doesn't exceed the amount that was agreed to with RCTC, we get refunded basically for the cost of running the program. Now, if we were to exceed that agreement, that would be different, but we haven't had that issue at all. Yes.
I noticed starting on page 7,
Yes, I haven't gotten into the statements yet, but yes, page 7.
about 2 paragraphs down, it says, as described in note, it's underlined, doesn't say what note is. And then at the bottom of the page, it says, we have also issued a report dated, date something, at the end of the page, we date exactly.
Correct.
As I continue to go back, there's at least 2 additional pages when you get to the end that it takes and tells us that something is coming, but there's no date.
Correct. The date can't be entered by the auditors until management and all oversight has agreed to the document as it's been presented. Everyone has to agree on it at that date when we take responsibility for these statements, because essentially they are ours. That is the date that will then be filled in, and any other cross-references that need to be made will also be added. But we have to review it and we have to approve of it first. Then the rest of those little blanks get filled out.
Now, the first comment I made had to do with a note that is not,
Correct. It should be note number 1, but I haven't checked to see what
the
it
next
is.
paragraph has note 1.
Note 1, yes.
And the paragraph above that, there is no reference as to what note they're supposed to be looking at.
Right, for the GASB 68, it may be, it's note 6. I will make sure that he gets that updated, but that is note 6.
And truthfully, I didn't find, maybe I overlooked it, but I didn't find notes.
Oh, they're there. They're just behind the financial statements. It's right after the cash flow statement will be note number 1.
How many pages back are you?
7, 8.
Top of the page, notes to financial statements, and then
It's about 8 pages in.
There's 4 or 5 pages that say notes to financial statements at the top of the page.
Yes, and those are all the
so
notes.
it's like right after the year ending.
They look like statements because some of them have tables of numbers. So they look like statements, but they're not. They're all part of the footnotes.
Did you want our questions on this, or did you want to go through it?
I was going to kind of walk through the statements and give you a feel for where the numbers come from and what they're for. So if we start with the statement of net position, it's the same essentially as a balance sheet. It's going to show all the assets, the liabilities, and then the equity. Equity in this case for governmental standards is net position. The net investment in capital assets then ties to the capital assets of the balance sheet at the top, and the difference then becomes whatever the net position remaining is. Now in this particular instance for 2015, it shows that the net position that's unrestricted is in brackets. That has to do with all of the GASB adjustments. Generally, when we're done in the past, before these GASB adjustments had to be made, that number was 0, as it is in the 2014 column. It's just the shifting of all of the numbers because having the GASB accruals also changes the deferred income, which is part of the agreements for the funding source. So it tweaked everything and then makes it look like there's an unrestricted deficit, but it really is related to the GASB adjustments.
Can I ask a question about the non-current assets, the capital asset net of accumulated depreciation?
Yes.
So I know in the past, historically, we haven't been accurate on gauging our asset values and depreciation. How sure are we of the accuracy of 2015's accumulated depreciation of the capital assets for transit?
In transit, they are tracked very closely because these assets technically, although we have use of them, we've been funded by RCTC to purchase them. So
Okay.
these assets actually, if something were to happen, have a revisionary clause and they would go back to RCTC. So these assets are tracked very specifically and very closely, RCTC as well as us. The assets that aren't tracked that we have trouble with are the general city assets.
Do we get to utilize that depreciation if they, in a sense, would go back to RCTC or?
We do. We
Okay.
track it, and it becomes part of our funding source calculations because the assets still have a life and they still have a replacement timeline. So
Okay.
that's all still tracked. It's all still taken into consideration
Okay.
So we have been reporting depreciation in the transit.
in the transit and in the wastewater. Yes, just not the city assets, not the government assets. So one of the things that I had said was that we have deferred income, which keeps getting moved around because of the GASB adjustments. That is the unearned revenues, which is just about in the very middle of the page. And it's $725,000. That number you'll get to see all over the footnotes because we have to be sure we can reconcile to that number. We have to know exactly what that's for. RCTC has to also agree what that's for. So we all know that we're holding funds that they gave us for a purpose. So you'll see that everywhere. That includes just up above the first line item in non-current assets, restricted cash. That's because those are our deferred incomes. Right, right. So we try to keep all these things very segregated, very separated, and we account for each one of these. The next page is the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. It's basically the income statement. And you can see at the top we have our passenger fares. That's the fare box that I was referring to. So how much did we collect through our activities, either through the selling of bus passes or other funding that we get just for providing the service. Then we had a $30 contribution.
Yay.
Yay. And we have all of our different operating expenses for just the transit division. And what happens is we end up with an operating loss, which is expected because in the next line you'll see where we get our transportation funds that then make up for the losses that we have. That's our funding source for the program. We had a capital grant during this particular year, June 30, 2015, of $10,445. I believe that is a bus stop that was constructed
We had a large upswing in supplies.
Yes, and there's one of the things that we did, and you'll see it in the footnotes, I'll point it out, is that we said that the financial statements may be slightly different combined in the current year than they were in the past year.
Okay.
And it's simply because, we're saying, well, these accounts should be reported as office supplies and these should be, so they could be a little bit different when you compare the 2 years because,
So
of course.
might just be a separating of the accounts versus actual upswing of cost.
Right.
Okay.
Right, which does make it difficult to do analysis, but we're
Well,
trying to
this
get
year,
that streamlined.
next year, it'll be.
Exactly. The other thing we had was we have a restatement of the net position in this particular year. That is the GASB changes, because it had to be made as of the end of 2014 and then rolling in the changes that were then effective in 2015. So it had to be done as a restatement.
Milana, could I ask, the administration under operating expenses, what's in that administration? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head,
Okay, sorry.
but I can figure it out.
Well, I'm just,
Yeah.
okay.
It's not, I want to say it's maybe like special costs that are just for the department. Let's see if I can find it easily. I guarantee nothing, but we'll see if I can find it.
Could that be salaries over and above the regular salaries?
No, because we don't,
The salary should be under salary.
right, they're all under salaries.
Is it some sort of consulting
in-
services or something?
Well, that's why I was
There's
thinking
contract
it's,
services.
yeah, it's not
consulting. So I
that,
couldn't
and it's
figure out
Oh, I
what
see. There is a
administration
contract
was.
service.
right,
Yes.
right. That's why my other problem is, of course, we have different departments within transit where we track different things. So it could be something that adds up that won't just pop right out at me. I was hoping it would, but I'm not having that kind of luck.
You
I'm
could
sorry, I
email
didn't
us.
mean to ask
I
for the
can do that. I will
hard
get you
ones.
that just so I can see what,
She's going to check for you.
yeah.
I was also just trying to figure out why it would have gone down so much from 2014 to 15.
Right, and
that made
there's-
me wonder what it was. That was
Right, and it could be that one went down and supplies went up because the accounts just got grouped
better
different.
accounting practice.
Could have been an allocation into salaries too, because salaries went up.
Well, salaries is based on the actual salary of the staff that are assigned to the transit department. So that's
But I
not,
meant in 14, how sure were we that
oh, right,
there wasn't commingling of, yeah.
right, right. So that pretty much takes us through the main line items that are here in the revenues, expenses, and net position. The next statement is the cash flows. It's broken down by operating activities first. So our operating activities are monies that we receive from the customers and those who use our service. Then we have payments to vendors and suppliers and others, and then payments for employees and the related personnel costs of those employees that gives us the cash that's been used by our operating activities. Then we have our grant money that comes in from RCTC, which offsets it. And then the next section is where you can see we have a capital asset that we purchased and that it was funded with the same source of funds from RCTC.
You said RCTC
Yes.
refunds us.
Is
Is there a cap or a limit on the amount of money that they refund us?
that it's
Is it congruent
a
with our
funding
exact
source.
spending? Or
It's pretty much because it has to be budgeted in advance through the short short-range transit. I got the letters backwards and it threw me off. As long as we follow that, which they approve in advance for the year, then we get funded based on that contract.
And the city could hypothetically incur growth in their budget and then they would congruently reimburse in exchange for that if transit needed to grow, or no?
We'd have to go back to RCTC if it exceeded what had already been agreed to for the year.
Okay.
So I know
How
that-
likely are they to do that? Is that something they don't normally do, or?
I don't think we've really had
Okay.
that.
I'm just curious. Okay,
So
so it's possible.
it's possible.
Okay.
The cash flows are fairly straightforward. They just take your beginning cash, here's all the things that affected it, there's your ending cash. So it balances back to your balance sheet. And then the next page starts all the wonderful footnotes.
Milana, before you go into footnotes,
Yes.
I had a question on this, on the pages right before you go into basic financial statements. On the page before that, under other matters, required supplementary information.
Yes.
Management has omitted the management's discussion and analysis. Is that because we haven't done it yet because we're in the draft?
That is correct. And I actually hadn't done it yet for the transit one because I'd been working on doing one for citywide, which is much bigger and has a lot more to say. But this one, it will be fairly short. It will show the changes from this year to last year of each of the different types of accounts and then offer short explanations for why and future of the program, and that's pretty much it.
So it sort of is the management's explanation of how this was prepared?
Right.
or
Right. Just a
that may be in here?
right short analysis of why is this number so significantly different from that number? Do we have future capital improvements? We have deferred income. What are we going to do with it? Things
Can
like
you address
that.
the notes in there often? I've seen that in the city one.
In the larger ones, yes. This one, maybe it'll hit and miss. But this one with the Transit Authority, it's so specific when it comes to the footnotes as far as where's the funding source? Why do you have the money? Which part of the program does it come from? I don't know if I'll need to do any reference to it because it's here. There's not a lot to that.
So that will change, that sentence that says is omitted will change.
Right. We'll get the MD&A included at the front end.
Got it. Thank you.
So the footnotes just talk about the entity itself and how it is standalone, but it does not represent the city in total. The city is a larger creature. It has more to it. It's more complicated than just this. That it follows fund accounting, what the measurement focus is, and that is a single enterprise fund, which is what I was saying. It's a standalone, almost like a for-profit organization. Even though it's still part of the city, you can pull this piece out and you can look at it on its own merit. It has the cash and cash equivalents. We don't really have investments in our transit fund, mostly because the funds are coming from RCTC and then used. So there's really not an opportunity for investing in any kind of.
Do you have any knowledge if other cities utilize any of that funding for investments in their transit?
I don't know how they could.
Okay.
I think they would have to spend it, or RCTC would redirect their funds.
Okay.
Standard footnotes for use of estimates, what the grants are different sources for the funding through RCTC, the different pieces it could be part of, the capital assets, how we've determined that they have lives and how we know the depreciation. And then there's the reclassifications footnote that says it may be combined a little differently this year than it was in the past, but in total it still summarizes the same information. Footnote 1 continues and on the next page has a short paragraph about the pension itself, which is the retirement plan. It's kind of a really brief explanation of the kind of plan that the city has. Again, cash and investments is just cash because we have the funds coming from RCTC. And when you look at the 2015 column, you will see restricted cash. There's that $725,000 again. It comes up and it is shown as a segregated amount because it is part of the deferred income. The next page is our capital assets. Shows all the categories of assets and the depreciation that apply to them. And you can see it right in the middle of the first section. We have an increase of $10,445. That's the one item that we've already seen in the funding source and in the cash flow statement that they basically reimbursed us for. They granted us that money. It shows 2015 and 2014.
Milana?
Yes.
The capital assets being depreciated, you commented on that the vehicles technically belong under certain circumstances to RCTC.
Right, they have revisionary agreements.
What about the building?
They can't take it. That's mostly for improvements or things that had to be done to change it, like the, I don't know,
Okay.
painting maybe.
Is that included in the depreciation as well? I know we can't depreciate land, but is the building itself also in there?
No, the building isn't, RCTC didn't purchase the building you're in now, so it would
No.
only be
So it's
improvements
not.
to it.
But
Okay.
So-
Do we, is there,
Improvements to it.
is that part of the funding from the city to allow the building to be used for transit? That's like the cooperative part from the city?
The city does charge the transit department, it sounds odd, but for administrative overhead, so for
So maybe
use
that
of
was in
space, for
administration.
use of staff, things like that. So that's taken into consideration, and that amount is paid to the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Does, okay. Is it oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, is it incrementally increased, for just general cost and overhead? I mean, any rental should be,
Well, we're going through the rate study now, and
Okay.
once we get that done, then we'll be able to,
because certainly if we're being reimbursed it, by all means, we should be increasing it if our cost and overhead are increased
right?
in it.
We
Okay.
just have to be able to substantiate it properly.
Okay.
As soon as we can do that, then we can revisit what it is we have allocated for that piece, and we can build it into the
Okay.
budget.
Sorry, Mayor.
Insurance?
Insurance, workers' compensation is
So on the buses, we have self-insurance.
yeah, it's all self-insured, so I think
Through
it's,
the city, not our PA,
right,
right?
right.
And am I reading this right, that actually, the first part of the capital assets is what we're starting it out as, but then we go to less accumulated depreciation, and that's where we're only determining what the actual value is.
The book value, yes. Not necessarily the value of the assets if we were to sell them, or RCTC would allow us to sell them. It's just, how much did it cost us, and how long should that asset last? Well, then we're gonna write it down over that time frame. So it's like the remaining
Useful.
life. Mhm. But it's not like a replacement cost, none of that. It's just a cost analysis over time.
So if the vehicle gets damaged, we repair it or replace it?
Yes, we have,
Repairs or replaces it?
transit does, and as long as it's part of our budget with RCTC, then that
We're
becomes part of our
reimbursed.
funding source. So
Without-
we do,
Now we get reimbursed.
So all the insurance is not counted here because we're self-insured and everything that needs insurance.
of course, yes. Everything needs insurance. On the following page, capital assets, we have it broken down by the funding sources. Where did we get the funds for the capital assets that we acquired? The different types of monies that come through RCTC.
Do we regularly purchase large capital assets? Or is that something we don't do
No,
a lot of?
we do. We did in 2016.
Okay.
Fiscal 16, two buses, three buses. It was a significant purchase, all funded through the RCTC reimbursement.
Did we budget for that based off of city size and growth? I mean, how did we determine that we needed 3 buses?
That I'm going to leave to you.
I'm just curious because I hear a lot of the citizens, in
about
certain,
the replacement.
certain concerned about not about the condition of the buses, just the number of buses, that are transporting children, things like that. So I'm just curious, how do we decide we needed 3, and do we need more, or what is? Yeah.
The general lifespan of buses is 10 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
we have to submit every year as part of the short-range transit plan. We have to show what vehicles we have, which ones need to be replaced, and.
So when
how-
they're low on their useful life, that's when RCTC says, yes, you can purchase. So we can't grow our buses based off of our citizen size?
Well, no, when the next step to that is, so we do the replacement.
Uh-huh.
And we have a schedule for that. But then if we add in any routes, or we grow the program, like we just added Route 136.
Okay,
We purchase a bus for that.
for the route.
So as the program goes, RCTC approves our submittal for our.
So we
capital.
increase a route, we have a need, we can support that need with a new bus, we put it in our budget, they reimburse us.
Correct.
So the
And then-
growth is possible
And then the rolling schedule of 10 years.
on the buses that we currently have.
Right.
Okay,
But
okay.
this is all based on the 10% of the fare box, right? I mean, we,
No, the capital assets is completely different.
Do you-
There's operations comes from LTF and capital comes from a different state, yeah.
Do you feel like we have sufficient buses to meet the needs of the citizens currently? Okay,
We actually have 17 vehicles and we only have 9 routes.
okay,
And we do that on purpose so that when a bus goes down, we have a
Another
replacement
one.
in the yard.
okay.
Elizabeth?
The concern might be the number of passengers on each bus.
That's what it is, yes. Okay,
But I can tell you our highest routes get our biggest buses, and right now our biggest buses can transport legally 66 passengers at one time.
okay.
Elizabeth, while you're there with the microphone, could you just comment to the committee so they sort of know the detail of when you get to 50,000 people so they know the change that may be in the future?
Do
for
we have a
transit?
magic number?
The Transportation Development Act of 1971 states that we are currently rural. We are under the 50,000 census. And I'm still trying to get some clear answers from RCTC. It's my understanding in reading the TDA that when we hit the 50,000, we now become urban. And urban means that we're over the 50,000 population, and now our fare box recovery ratio is not 10%, it's 20%.
So we're going through growing pains right now.
Well, then there's this clause in the TDA that talks about this blended fare box and blended, so I need to sit down, but my understanding from reading the TDA is we're gonna be thrown into the big leagues when our population hits 50,000, which is about 2 or 3 years from now,
Okay,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Now, when you
Thank
say
you.
50,000, does that mean our service area, or does that mean the city of Beaumont?
Well, right now I'm going on the city of Beaumont. Our service area is over 50,000.
We're at like, what, 46.7 now or something like that, aren't we?
Well, Beaumont's at 45. We service Cherry Valley and Calamasa. Calamasa, I know, is about 7,500. So-
Do we add those then? So they're added in if we're servicing them? Are they considered? Oh, okay.
That was my question.
I'll be quiet.
Yeah, that was the question, and I'm only considering the city of Beaumont limits. And
Okay.
so far, our CTC hasn't called
got
me.
any ideas?
Okay. My bad. Halliwell would have brought it up anyway.
There you go. So at the end of footnote 3, where it has the different types of funds, you can see that there are the STA funds, which is part of the capital asset piece, the LTF funds, we have the Prop 1B, the operator funds, so all the different ways that the monies can get to the city through RCTC, we keep that all broken out. Number 4 is back to our unearned revenues. We have to go through a calculation that shows that we didn't leave money on the table, that there's not more funds that we need to recognize as deferred that will need to be approved and rolled into the following year. So in this calculation, that is here in the first part of footnote number 4, you can see that we don't have funds left over. Now, generally, it's not this large of a negative number, but again, it's part of the GASB 68, which totally skewed all the numbers. These numbers also came into play after the budget had been set with RCTC. Nobody knew how this was going to affect it in the front end. It only came up at the end. So it was very difficult to try and play with the numbers to make it work out exactly the way we want it to. So that's why it looks negative and it's not closer to 0. But our goal is to get that closer to 0 if we take GASB calculations out of it.
Can we go back to footnote 3?
Yes?
You see it says Major A. Is that part of the funding that we pay locally our taxes to and is part of the lawsuit?
No, this is different. This is through RCTC, so it's their Measure A funds that they have available for certain capital improvements, capital assets that could flow to us based on what it is we requested.
But it's a countywide tax, right?
Right, but this is through RCTC, so it's not, it's monies they have been given. It's their Measure A money that they then flow through to other agencies.
Yeah, we have to pay out to it. The Gatsby making such a negative impact on everything, what's the plan for bringing that positive? Are we allowed to budget additional surplus to RCTC to counter effect the negative occurrence of Gatsby? I mean,
Well, that's
if we
the
can't,
question we
we
have.
burn it as we earn it, we're never going to fill that hole.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So what I did was the draft of the footnotes and the way that the GASB adjustments affected the numbers, I've already sent to the financial person at RCTC, and she and I are going to sit down and talk in more detail so that I'm sure of how we're doing things. We're so far behind now that I
we
just
would need
wanna,
some sort of fund or something to be.
unless they are looking at it by also taking a measure of this versus that. If we take this out, then have you met the criteria? I'm just not sure how they're measuring it, but they knew that this was going to happen, and they've looked at our numbers for this year that we have in front of us right now, and they were aware this would happen. So it's one of those things we need to just sit at a table and work through the numbers, make sure we're crunching things the right way so that we don't get caught off guard and get the numbers all mixed up. So that is.
So we're not clear yet
We're
on
not
all of
clear
that.
yet.
Okay.
Not clear yet.
I would surmise that this is not unique to Beaumont.
No, it's probably everybody.
It's everyone. And so that's why, like I said, we're just so far behind that now that we start to catch up, I'll be able to go out and get some of these things
It
cleared
just,
up.
to me, makes it difficult when you can't
Right.
hold on to a surplus, you can't invest anything with the
Right.
funds here, then, and we spend it as we report it, then there's no way to fix that deficit.
Right. So it's just one of those things we'll have to find out
Okay.
how to work through it from this point forward.
Okay.
So on the next page, the last part of footnote number 4, you will see that we have our wonderful $725,000 that keeps recurring. We know what we're holding that money for. They've given us $16,805 that we are holding towards bus shelters upgrades, part of a whole plan that they have, and $708,908 for rolling stock procurement and the security cameras that we needed to upgrade on the buses. So they've given us those funds. We have them. We're holding them aside. We know what they've been approved to be used for, and we track those as we go along.
Will they take that from us if we don't use it in a timely manner?
I don't know what the time frame is. Some of them have rolled forward for several years.
Okay.
So I think we're
Okay.
safe, but even if they wanted it back under some circumstances, we do have it accounted for as segregated restricted cash. So
Oh,
it's there.
okay.
Right.
Well, didn't they just build a bus shelter in Calamasa?
Possibly, but we're still looking at June of 2015. So at this point in time, the funds are here, and that may be part of the money that was spent since then, subsequent to that. Footnote 5, long-term debt. The only long-term debt or debt that is recorded is that for compensated absences. That's the sick and the vacation and the comp time and everything that's been booked for the employees or that they have reserved for themselves. And then, of course, the net pension liability. There's no other debts to the transit fund at all.
203.
Footnote 6 is about the pension plan. Again, talks a little bit about the NPL, the net pension liability, and what that means for the city. Footnote 7, I think, is the important one. This is where we do the fare box ratio calculation, and you can see that if we bump up to the urban, that we're only at 12.9% for 2015. I don't know what it is at the moment for 2016. I bet Elizabeth knows, though. But it's not at 20%. So this, if that happens, this is the calculation that will be a linchpin for us. Okay. But right now we're in total compliance because the requirement is 10%. Footnote 8 is our Proposition 1B money. You'll see that comes back again to our $725,000. They want to be sure that under no circumstances do we not understand that $725,000 is being set aside for capital projects that they've already approved. And then the last thing is footnote 9. Those are our restatements of net position. Those are our prior period adjustments. So the big GASB numbers, and we did have a small number for a reclassification from one year to the other. We found it was recorded in the wrong year. And so that's also in there, but it's much smaller than the GASB. The last 2 pages are, I think, wonderful. It's the internal control and compliance letter for our transit authority, our transit fund, and the people there. There are no deficiencies in internal control that are material weaknesses, and no instances of non-compliance to be reported
Yay.
for transit. And that is the end of their audit report.
That's good.
Can I ask about 8, Proposition 1B, why we're negative funds used?
Which one?
Does that have anything to do with Gatsby? 8?
Footnote 8, hang on.
Footnote 8, Prop 1B funds used? TSSDRA?
No, those are funds we used. That's,
We overused?
no, that we did use them.
Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just to break down the cost.
I see it.
You break
Oh. Yeah.
Good.
So we are to make a recommendation to the council for
Yeah.
either approval or not.
Now, you're going to talk to RCTC about working out those fine details. You have to do that before it gets presented to council?
No, because
You can do
those
that after.
discussions won't change the results of this audit. And they won't change the results of the fiscal 16 audit either. I just want to be sure we're all on the same page moving forward so that we know what the results are and what the implications are and, we do things the right way. Because I want to stay in compliance with whatever they want. I want to be sure we've met
Yeah.
those needs.
This is on the agenda tomorrow night for council.
Yes.
okay.
Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my only concern, was just making sure that we understand how to work on the deficit that's created by Gatsby.
Right.
That's it.
I move recommendation for the draft report to approval of draft report.
I'll second.
To approve. Halliwell second. Everyone else in favor?
Yes.
I,
Okay.
Next. Next.
Chair?
Yeah, number 4. Draft audit of the City of Beaumont financial statements, fiscal 14-15. So everybody has the drafts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Receive an agenda for financial audit committee discussion and recommendations.
Yes.
we didn't expect that we would be able to discuss it.
Yeah, we were
tonight,
just gonna
since we
receive
just
it.
got it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be a little
So
difficult.
this was put on the agenda so that we could accept it and then discuss when to talk about it.
Okay.
And it's important that we talk about it before January.
Oh,
if
so we need to move
possible.
it to our next agenda? maybe?
Next meeting?
The next meeting would be in January. So
Oh, my God, we're just.
I guess the question that I would at least ask the committee is to discuss whether we need to have a special meeting where we discuss just this so that we can get it to council in a timely way and not hold it off to them.
It is a city audit, I think.
Yes.
We need to,
We need to.
it's
address it.
important.
We do.
Right.
The next meeting would be the 2nd, is that correct? which is a holiday.
Yes,
So we'd have to, we'd have
We'd
to
have
set
to
another
schedule
date anyway.
here in December.
Yeah. Okay.
And why do we need to do this before January
The budget.
with the budget?
Yeah.
Well, otherwise, we don't discuss it until the first week or so in January.
And
And
council would
then
be
it has to
dealing with it
go to
before-
council after that.
before we even
And
get to help.
typically, we usually have our meeting the day before council.
Right.
So
Right.
I just didn't know if that was enough time. And I just wanted us to be able to discuss the timing issue and get input from the committee on that.
Yeah. Like if you look at the calendar.
Todd, do you have a weighing in on this that you want to do?
The first Monday in January is the 9th, so that's
That
going
would be,
considerably in.
and then the first council meeting is the
Third.
10th? The 3rd, see, so they'd meet before. So that was where I came up with, did we want to schedule a meeting of finance and audit where we discussed it and then it went to council for their first meeting in January? Is that critical or not?
I think having an interim meeting, if y'all could, might be good, because there's a lot to plow through with this particular audit. You're not gonna have a lot of questions. And so maybe good to have a meeting in a couple of weeks, to try to feel what those questions are, and come back with some follow-up information, so we can refine stuff. If we can, we'll come back maybe in January to finalize.
When did you hope to have it on the agenda for council?
Yeah, sometime in January is what we had hoped.
So it doesn't have to be immediately the first. We could actually have another meeting in January and then give it to the council after that.
Yes, and we could shoot to try to get it in front of council for their second meeting of the
Okay.
January.
Which would be the 17th.
Yeah, the 9th would be good.
Yeah,
How's
the 9th would be good.
availability for everyone on the 19th? Because if we do it any later than that in December.
On the 19th of this month?
Yeah. He was suggesting that we have an interim meeting
Within 2
between
weeks.
now and January.
Within 2 weeks.
So that would
Off the top of my head, that works.
be 2
I'll have
weeks
to-
from tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good on that too.
December 19th.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, I'm checking right now my phone. I turned it off
19.
because it's rude.
Because then we still have the first meeting in January to finalize our recommendations. In plenty of time.
It should be the 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay on the 19th.
Okay.
19th.
Okay.
19.
We okay?
Special meeting?
Sold.
Do we need to make a
We
motion?
have a preliminary meeting on the 19th.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
Do nothing but this, and this is the
Right.
only thing on the agenda.
that's it.
Then we're gonna meet again the first week in January.
Yep,
Got one more shot at it, basically, and then.
any refinements.
Yeah,
But we need to talk about our meeting in January because the 2nd is a holiday.
right. So it wasn't the 9th?
third will be a council, or the council meeting will be the next day.
Yeah, our first meeting for financial would be the 9th. That's the first Monday.
If we go to the
And then
first
it-
Monday.
And then after that, it could go to the council.
It's actually the second Monday, but I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
but it's
a
our,
holiday.
yeah, it's our first available, yeah.
Okay.
You know what I'm trying to say.
So that should give a good time frame for it to be on the agenda for the second meeting in January.
And your second meeting, the council's second meeting would be the 17th,
That's right.
so we'd be okay. Okay.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
auditors are going to make a presentation. at
That's
that
what I was
meeting on
gonna
the
ask.
17th.
Do you want the auditors to be here
On the 19th?
to discuss it through our first time through?
Oh, yes.
That would be good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Make
We've already given them,
Absolutely.
we've
I will
already
give them
given
a
them a
date.
heads up, right? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And are we doing
Yes,
this
just
on
give
a-
me reading time.
This would be our regular time, 6 PM?
Yes.
6 PM on the 19th and then.
Exciting.
On the 9th.
12, 19th, and then
See, I love it.
again on 1, 9, 17. Wow.
Okay. Is it regular bat time?
Okay. Regular bat time.
Got it.
Good.
We're gonna be ready to discuss these bond businesses.
Are you going back to the bonds right now?
19th of
Okay, where are we at? Are we on our next item, or do we need to do a motion for this meeting?
So let's do
Okay.
it. Make it official.
I gotta put it.
Okay.
Before we do,
Oh.
we already approved the recommendation of the.
Yes.
We did.
Audit.
We
Yes,
did.
we did.
I'd like
So-
to make a motion to approve our special meeting on December 19th at 6 PM to discuss the draft only.
Second and
Jen,
third.
and we got a second, Elaine.
Second and third.
Everybody in favor?
Yes.
And we're off.
And to, we can actually, the next meeting discussions item 7, so we can talk about the next meeting. on
Potential
the 9th
agenda?
then.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Kate,
Ready.
And this in.
treasurer update.
Treasure update, please.
The trustee is creeping closer and closer. We'll be able to maybe move ahead the beginning of the year, probably. We need to probably finish up December with some final paperwork, and we're looking forward to January, hopefully, of getting Wilmington Trust on board, which will also help our reporting going forward after the first of the year. We are moving along with our software update. Our software update is going to address a large segment of the SEO checklist. There are so many things embedded in the SEO checklist that were reporting and accounting separation requirements and separation of duties and checks and balances on who did what. And the software is moving along. They've done training. You've done your, do you want to speak about that, Milana? You've done your testing?
We went live this morning. We verified that the numbers came over fine, and now we're into the, okay, how do we make it work? So we're making a lot of progress. He figures that the technician that's here, he says he will be on site to assist us for 3 weeks for everything that we need. Anything we get stuck on, we need to be retrained. He'll walk us through it. Something doesn't work, he will figure out what's wrong and get it fixed. So it's very exciting and it's just wonderful. And this morning I ran a preliminary balance sheet for the first time. It was really, really nice. Wow. So it's terrific stuff. But it's going to take a little while to get used to, but I'm really looking forward to the reporting capabilities that we'll have.
Who verifies the continuity of the transfer over of data? Because I know sometimes when you upgrade software and you transfer, especially as antiquated as our stuff was,
I did it this
there's some
morning.
lost in translation. Okay.
I did it this morning. I did all the verification of the general ledger balances to make sure everything came over, especially since we had some changes to the chart of accounts. So I wanted to make sure everything showed up where it was supposed to. We have a few things to move around, but all the balances came over.
Oh,
Tomorrow
wow.
we'll work on the verification of all the vendor data
Okay.
and payments to vendors, not just for the fiscal year, but you also have to look at the calendar year because of the 1099 reporting. So that is for tomorrow to verify all the vendor information.
How amazing will those real-time reports be?
It'll
That's
be awesome.
exciting.
So yeah, so it's a little bit of a transition. It's a little bit overwhelming, but it's going to have such a positive impact. It'll be great.
Yeah, so we need
Right
to
on.
review it.
That'll be a very big deal.
Happy times.
Yeah.
I'd like to, in January, after the audit discussions are over with and it's gone to council, to probably do a major update of the SEO checklist.
Yeah.
Because such a big segment of that will be addressed with the new software that I've sort of put it on the back burner while we were going through the transition on the software. But I'd really like to see that brought forward afterwards so that we can see how much of that was taken away with the new software, because I think that'll be very,
Are you saying in January you want to do that?
It's going to come
Okay.
up nicely.
so we'll do the work in January and probably present it in February at the meeting.
No, okay, yeah, no problem.
that's
We'll
what
get
I'm
together.
thinking.
Okay.
And VLF has been very good to work with. We're proceeding along nicely with them, and we are very hopeful, and we've gotten some encouraging feedback on that we may be able to continue with them into next year as our auditors, which would be great for us in many ways. First of all, they've done so much of the heavy lifting with the mess that we were in, and they'll be able to smoothly take us into the next one, rather than to work with new vendors and to have to start with establishing where the floor is on everything. So I'm really looking forward to a positive. They still have to get back to us with numbers on what they would charge, so that question is still open, but at least it looks like the working relationship can continue, and that's really positive.
That's good.
So with that, that's
Okay.
pretty much,
Okay.
The treasurer update.
yep.
Okay. City manager and staff update.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate everybody's time to this. These are not easy reports to go through, and it's impressive to watch all experts kind of hammer through this at a good point, so I appreciate that. A couple key things that we're working on that you'll be seeing in the very near future. First of all, y'all know that we've talked about the wastewater plant project that we have, upgrade that's there, that we're looking at an $85 million project that we would need to try to fund. So we'll be looking, we've got some rate modeling that's done. We need to look at how we want to structure that funding for that particular project. We're looking at probably revenue bonds as our concept to bring forward. So we'll be bringing that together, presenting that to you. You'll need to look at that and help us kind of work through a funding mechanism for that. Like I said, the rate study's been completed and really contemplates all the elements that we need to fund that. The other thing that we've been, Milana, see, it's the royal we. I mean, when I say we, I mean Milana.
Yeah.
She's been working hard to reconcile our development impact fee fund program. So she's got some balances that she's created on that. She's now turned her attention to the CFD funds that are there, so we can try to go through each of the CFDs, reconcile those, and look at where we are, what happens, what funds need to be transferred where. So in the near future, we'll be presenting that to y'all.
Good.
Ultimately, what we want to do is to create a final balance for our funds moving forward, so we can finally stop looking back and we can begin to look forward. And so we hopefully in the next couple months will have some final information to bring to y'all. So what we'd like to do with that is to have y'all take some consideration of that and provide some recommendations on moving forward, so we can take that to council and have a final ratification that here's our baseline, and this allows us now to continue to move forward. So those are some of the key issues that we're working on that y'all may have some interest in, and we'll be presenting back for y'all's discussion and input and guidance on those things for ultimately bringing back to council. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you liking Beaumont so far?
Fantastic. I was then up in the mountains and the beach. just hanging
Everything's an hour away, right? Anywhere you want to be, desert, beach, mountains, okay.
Wait until about July 31st to go.
I'll take that under review.
Portable living.
So, Milana, I have a question for you. Do you have everybody's current email address? You have all our current information that you need?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't, I would like to be sure I've got all of our current members of
I
the
know
committee.
Milana and I have each other, so I
Yeah.
know that
I
much.
sent out an email to everybody to just confirm the
I did
addresses.
get that.
Did everybody
Yeah,
get
I
it?
was good. I
Okay,
got
didn't
that.
get confirmations back from everybody.
Well, I worry about violating the Brown Act, you
You
know,
don't have to
so I
worry
don't
about
confirm to
coming
anything.
back to one person. You're
I
fine.
never know, so when in doubt, don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Will you just confirm that for me? I can get a current.
I'll wink at you right now.
Elaine, I'm confirmed.
I'm confirming.
Just
On
as long
camera.
as we have a good chain of communication, I'm just be sure we can contact everybody. so.
Elaine, I don't know if I saw that.
I'm
Okay, I'll resend it
Okay.
to you. I'm pretty sure,
Make sure my address should be the city.ca.gov.
okay, I'll double check it.
Okay.
Okay.
And you have
That's it?
mine. I know you do.
Okay.
Okay,
So, we're good?
We're waiting on you.
we're at next
Oh,
meeting discussion.
I'm
You're the
just
chair.
looking at you. I'm just waiting to see that she's okay. Yes. I'm watching her right over there.
Checking everything out.
John's good.
With respect to the next meeting,
Yes.
or the meeting immediately following,
The 9th?
In the 9th?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that probably that'd be the date. We need to put on the agenda the formation of the members of this committee. Because
Yes.
we are losing one member
Yes,
when she was installed to the city council.
yes, that's right.
See,
And the
now
city
you guys made me
council,
turn my
when
phone
they
back on.
reform,
Yes,
they may take and decide that they want 2 different city council members that are currently
yeah,
serving.
yeah.
Well, that's
Since
for
you're
council
two-year
to
term, I
decide,
assume it
though.
will stay.
Sure, but the treasurer position will be refilled, will
Right.
be filled by a treasurer.
I understand.
So you're right. There right now
But we
are
can't have 3 council members on
sitting
this.
here, and there will only be 2.
No,
So one of us will go off,
yeah.
or all of us.
So you gotta
will go
do
off.
pick straws and,
Maybe all of us will go off. We don't know.
No.
Now, there
Don't
was-
leave us.
We do need to look at, though, that we're on a 2-year cycle here. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know if we all want to go to the end of 2 years and then half of us go for 1 year and then we bring some, I mean, that all has to be decided at some point.
But we
On how
talked
we're
about
gonna
that
I
at the
rotate.
starting.
Yeah.
We
That's right.
discussed that at
Yeah.
the starting. We all agreed that we would go 2 years.
mm-hmm,
And then do,
And then we can decide, or make a recommendation to council whether it makes sense, depending on who wants to stay on.
mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
I think we're good until next year.
Okay, so we don't need to rotate anybody until the end of
No,
the
but
second
we did,
year.
we did
But-
agree to do something about another more.
We do need
We
more.
We need
do.
2 more
Yeah.
alts, yeah.
So I think it's appropriate to put on the next meeting agenda, in the regular meeting in January, a discussion on the current organization, whether we get a response on the alternates, whether we need to solicit more or do more of a reach out for that.
So what's going on?
I'd also
with that?
encourage anybody that wants to apply potentially for the treasurer's position.
Yeah.
I heard it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, woohoo! But is the city, are they actually out there trying to get us more candidates? What's going on with that?
Well, we haven't been able to do, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but we haven't been able to do anything about reaching out because the election hasn't been certified.
I think she's.
Not yet.
No, for alternates.
Oh, the alternate, we
Yeah, for
haven't
the
done
alternates.
anything about that.
Why?
Yeah, I think we still have the link for the application on our website, right?
Yeah.
It
We
doesn't-
just haven't done any push.
We haven't put the word out.
You haven't put the word out. You can have an application all day long, but if nobody knows about it, we're
Right.
good. So can
So-
there be some kind of push?
So we could ask
We can make a
our
motion.
city manager to
We could ask,
see if he could do a little promotion for us, and then
we could also ask
maybe
maybe our
through
news persons. in the
our
city.
local.
Well, the Record Gazette is here.
The Record Gazette is
The Record
here.
Gazette's right here. Press
Yeah.
Enterprise is here. We could, yeah.
We have a lot of prestigious members of the press that could help us out. That
Uh-huh.
would be good.
That would be fabulous.
So we want 2 alternates? Is that what
We
we're
need
looking?
two.
We'd like
alternates.
two alternates.
Also in January, we should discuss reorganization for this committee as well.
Uh-huh.
Do we want to do secretary?
Oh, wow. Notice how he just dished that out right out.
Said discussion.
Thank you, Mr. White. He said secretary first.
I know.
We got that on camera.
It is now recorded.
Volunteer too, didn't I?
I think
I have one item. I don't know if the answer is or if we need to agendize it for January, but on Potrero, we discussed that several meetings back, the developers, that big old meeting, put up some money and
Oh, yeah.
blah, blah.
Mhm.
I have not heard anything back on where that's all at, so.
The council has an update on it?
It-
Do you, Milana?
Mr. Park?
One of the things that we were supposed to get was funds up front to offset certain costs. We did get that. That has been.
Oh, we
booked by-
did. Okay.
That's, and that's now in place so that the costs that are incurred for that analysis is using those funds. So
It did not come from a group of developers. It came from a single developer.
it came from a single developer, but I'm not sure what their agreements are on the outside. Right.
But tomorrow night it is on the agenda for a Potrero update and a wastewater treatment update. So
Okay.
it would be good for all of the committee to listen to the podcast
Okay.
or watch it on YouTube.
Tomorrow, you said?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. I also want to thank your front page analysis was very helpful. You get down in the weeds, sometimes it's hard to figure out where you're going, but you just kind of made it really simple, easier. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
So I would say that we're good.
Are we? Are we good?
Okay, I think we're there. We have our next,
Motion to adjourn?
we have, yes, sir.
So moved.
Second?
Third?
I'm in favor. All right.
I concur.
time?
It is 7:15.